On our YouTube channel, nerdtoknowmedia, my name is Darrell O'Connor, and I'm joined by lads. Introduce yourself.
Kieran
I
Calico,
am
I'm thrilled
Kev,
to be here. And sorry.
and I am Kev.
We might be joined by Bryn. We don't know where Bryn is. He just appears. So if he shows up and Zoom bombs us, then fair enough. If not, then we'll see him next week. But
The
lads,
cable tower's got him.
that's it. Later on in the show, or in the stream rather, we're going to be interviewing the main guy behind the anime lockdown panel, our director of operations, should I say, of the anime lockdown panel, and that's going to be at the start of the next hour. So if you guys are watching live, hang out. We're going to stream it, and if you're listening to it, we'll tack it on to the end of the show. Bryn has entered the building, so here he is. Here,
Whoa!
there we go. Hey, Bryn. Oh, he'll show up. So this is the joys of live radio. Bryn, welcome to the show. You're on the air live and coming to us from San
From
Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yes.
Because somebody spent time and effort in Zoom backgrounds.
See, Zoom backgrounds are great, but they don't work with me because I either disappear into them completely or else it just can't read them. So I need a green screen at some point. But
That's too far now. See, this is the problem with Rule of Thirds. You just have trouble.
You just start getting consumed by the San Francisco Bay.
Here's the thing. When I was there, and I'm going to go see the Golden Gate Bridge, it was really hazy, so I was standing beside it, but I couldn't see it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. It's right there. Why can't I see it? So, yeah, I was very upset, very underwhelmed by the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge, namely because I couldn't see it. But
Bryn, could you do me a favor and be somewhere else every time you start talking? Could you be on the moon next? Maybe there you go.
Well, I'm in space now, so
actually,
I mean,
I don't know if you know what's going on, but the folks over on Lucasfilm uploaded a rake of their best Star Wars pictures.
Oh, they did not, did they?
And and you can do, and they're like, this is specifically for Zoom, so they can, you can do your Zoom call from the Emperor's throne room and stuff.
Oh no, I'm in Hoth. Watch out, everybody.
But yeah, so welcome to the show, Bryn. And that's just his normal place. And now he's in a sunny beach, breaking quarantine.
It's just so great. I love it so much.
So yeah,
Sweating it out on a podcast.
This is great for podcast listeners. It really is.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
this is why you watch the streams, guys. If you're listening to this on a podcast, go over and watch the streams, or else go to the
exclusive
YouTube.
Content.
Exactly.
To be fair, one of the last times I was on, you were showing us pictures of cringy wrestlers. So there's always that ingredient.
This is fair. This is why you should hop over or watch the streams or join the YouTube channel because of mad stuff like this. But yeah, guys, how's everybody been? How's everyone surviving? What'll probably be one of the second last week of quarantine or lockdown.
Yeah,
it seems.
Yeah. Bryn from Naboo, why don't you tell us first?
Yeah, so I've tried to keep myself busy with as many different things as possible, including getting active backgrounds for Zoom. I just put a thing into the WhatsApp group there where I set up a Linux terminal to use Spotify, which is so boring, but I love it so much.
So boring. It's so unnecessary, and this is coming from me.
Yeah.
So
it's ludicrous, and no one needs it, but I had to do it.
It does look pretty cool. I have to say. My favorite Linux discovery of recent has been unmatched yet by Hannah Montana Linux. That's still the best.
I mean, Debian's pretty good.
Aurora Borealis, really, at this time of day, at this part of the country,
localized entirely in your kitchen.
This time you can see it.
Exactly. Okay, so what we do have, actually, I don't know, last week we talked about it. Well, we made some crazy promises, and one of the crazy promises that every episode we're going to review a season of The Simpsons. All right.
Yeah.
Now,
don't tell me I'm the only one that watched it.
No, I watched them as well.
I watched it.
But here's the thing, right? Bryn, even if you haven't watched it recently, you've seen all these episodes.
Oh yeah.
I was shocked by how many of these episodes were actually
there's an episode. There's an episode in the first 12 seasons I haven't seen.
Yeah, but I actually passionately hate the first season of The Simpsons.
Really?
Well, in theory I do, yeah. But then when I was watching it, I'm like, actually, there's some episodes here I like. It's just I hate the first few episodes, and then there's some that I actually really like.
Yep.
Yeah, it starts off like now. In saying that, this is definitely not a show that you're supposed to watch season to season sequentially.
Yep.
No.
Like it's obvious it's a sitcom.
Yep.
But yeah, no, like definitely, like the first few episodes are really, really slow until I think it was Bart's Army was the first time I actually laughed.
Bart the General is that one.
Bart the General. Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what the joke was, but something in it. It was the first one that actually like got me.
Well, look,
Herman gutting a dummy with a knife.
Yeah, no, the entire like military shop owner part. Okay, we need a declaration of war to make this official. Yeah. From the Franco-Prussian War, it should do.
No, one thing that really strikes me about the first episodes up until about the Life on the Fast Lane or Homer's Night Out, it's very serious. Like it's very, very serious. You know, like it's also very small. Like a lot of these episodes are quite not realistic, but they're very relatable. Like I think
the first episode is where they get Santa's little helper.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, with Christmas.
Yeah.
Homer tries to kill himself in one of these episodes as well.
Yeah.
And like it is not played as like any sort of a joke.
He's doing it. Like he's doing it.
He has wrapped a boulder around him, and
but that's how he becomes obsessed with safety and becomes the safety inspector.
Yeah.
It's so it's so great.
And Lisa has an existential crisis, and like Marge has to give her the Frozen advice of like trying to hide your feelings and smiling all the time.
Yeah, the Bleeding Gums Murphy episode I remember being one of the better ones of this season.
Oh yeah, man. Bleeding Gums episode is so great.
Right, so let's just keep it. Let's keep it sequentially, right? So
good idea.
So the start of it is like the first 4 episodes are Simpson roasting open fire, Bart the Genius, Homer's Odyssey, There's No Disgrace Like Home, and Bart the General, right? So the first like 5.
And to be fair, Bart the Genius is kind of the first episode because
it's the first real
roasting
episode.
Was a special when they were still shorts, like
like it's I was shocked by how quickly the show took off, as far as like it found its footing very, very quick. But those first 2 episodes, they're okay. They're not great, and there's a lot of reused content as well from the shorts that have been redone in Bart the Genius. Homer's Odyssey is the first one that has like all new content straight away. But here's the thing as well: Homer gets kicked out by Marge like 3 or 4 times in this season alone. Yeah. And it starts off with Homer's Odyssey, and then by Bart the General we go a bit crazy. Guys, what do you think about the first couple episodes?
I mean, I remember when I was much younger, I loved Bart the Genius. I loved that whole story and the idea that like he fobbed his way into a genius school. And I watched it because I didn't have, unfortunately, like I had a bunch of birthdays and stuff to work on this week, so I just didn't get to the Simpsons episodes. But I think I watched that episode about 5 months ago,
right?
And it's strange because I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as I did when I was younger. I think it's just like it didn't seem as joke heavy as I remember it being, if that makes sense.
There's a lot of nostalgia goggles. That is really like not a problem, but it's a thing that happens in this, and like you're watching it and you're just like, wait, I remember this being different than it was, and then it's like because you were
that's a fair point, but like I think is it who's Super Eye Patch Wolf doesn't it break down of the context of when The Simpsons was made, and to be fair, this was made to be a reaction to just how sanitized all the sitcoms of the 80s were, those sort of
it was
family, nuclear family type thing. So you kind of have to take it with that we're trying to be edgy and sort of dark on purpose as well, you know?
Like
absolutely.
It's trying to build a dysfunctional family,
yeah.
But they haven't quite got their footings on how to make that funny. So it just seems
dark,
awkward,
and bleak. And then
on top of that, adding in the incredibly off-kilter animation at the time.
See, that's the thing.
It just starts to be uncomfortable at points.
That's the thing that really bugs me, and that's what I hate about certain. But it's weird. It's not like sequential episodes that bug me. Like at random points, the one that really kind of just gets me is Homer's Nights Out, and the animation in The Call of the Simpsons where they get lost in the wild. With the RV.
Oh yeah.
The animation that is it's god awful. But it's like it was the first kind of trial run of what they were kind of doing. But when I was watching this back again, I wasn't expecting the episodes to be as enjoyable as they actually are. That's the thing.
I mean, just on the animation, sorry to cut across you there, Bryn, but like when I see the HD Simpsons just flicking through the TV, I get really sad. I don't mind if the animation's a bit rough. If it felt like it was drawn by someone who cared, maybe on a budget. Like I like that aspect to it.
There's something to the hand-drawn effect of it.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah. Sorry, do you want to go ahead?
No, that's kind of.
See, I think with coming from, because obviously the shorts were in incredibly scratchy style. Because like there's the whole story of Groening going in with the hand drawing on the napkin after him flagging in the meeting room. So like the shorts were that specifically like that weirdo, like heavy character style. And I think they were kind of going for obviously a softer thing for the show, but then it was still in that kind of surrealist realm before they really kind of tightened up just more of the character design. And again, like it works when the jokes actually land, but when they don't, it comes off as kind of weird and awkward.
I quite like the surreal. Like I'm looking at the episodes now. In Bart the Genius, you have him trying to do sums in his head, and he's like imagining people on a train. And then it goes to really strange places, and like you've got a few sequences like that. Like
you can also tell how much of a love they had for like horror in that way as well.
Yes,
and probably what led them to start doing the Treehouse of Horrors.
There's like, a lot of horror in this season.
Like the whole sequence with like why can't Nelson as like kind of a Goliath that cannot be.
Yes, that was going to be the next one. Yeah,
but not
or
even
the whole sequence where he looks at them in the car and they're all demons as they're coming away from the Burns picnic.
But not even that, right? But there's also like full-on horror stories in this, with Some Enchanted Evening being the obvious one, where they have a child bandit. She's a babysitter.
I really freaked out with that when I was younger.
She's still freaky, man. She's still really, really freaky, and it was like that uncomfortable thing. But even like jumping ahead a bit to Mo and Lisa, the Carl Simpsons Telltale Head, and Life on the Fast Lane. Telltale Head has those weird kind of surrealist moments too. I really like those kind of dream sequences thing where the head was talking and it's play on.
Well, that's a bit more Edgar Allan Poe, which leans into the Treehouse of Horror thing with the Raven and all that,
Exactly, yeah. Like you can see the influences kind of swirling around while they're trying to find what the show actually is. And then by the time you get to Homer's Night Out, Crepes of Wrath.
Yeah.
Please don't tell anyone how I live.
Krusty gets bus.
Oh god! Shout out to Frankiac and the best web application available.
Brilliant. So Homer's Night Out, Crepes of Wrath, Krusty gets busted, and Some Enchanted Evening. So that's kind of rounded out, and by the end of it, with the exception of Crepes of Wrath, which still kind of feels like a very, very early episode, like earlier on, those 3 episodes, the last 2 episodes, they feel like The Simpsons.
Yeah.
That's where I think those like are probably the 2 funniest episodes in the run.
Yeah.
But it's the one thing that like even just reading through the list of it, like some of these are like some of my favorite stories in The Simpsons. Like not necessarily the funniest stories, but like I mean, Life in the Fast Lane is an awesome, awesome story where Marge almost gets tempted by the smoothest bowling player in the world.
Yeah,
you never see again. Jacques. Jacques should come back.
No, he has a background cameo in the one where Homer has a bowling team.
Yeah.
With, what's the name of that team? The Home Wreckers and Ernie Lumpkin.
Home Wreckers.
He's on the Home Wreckers.
My favorite joke in that whole thing was when she's like dreaming about going to his apartment. It's this Art Deco style, but with bowling apparel. So that's kind of the only thing she knows about him. He's French and he bowls.
And there's lovely touches like the moon is a bowling ball when they're like in the car and all that. But that's what I like about the first season. They still feel like characters, and they've got permission to be cruel. Like there's no disgrace like Home, like where they're all zapping each other in the chairs and like it's. I'm looking at this from the perspective of it being sanitized later. I was laughing in spite of some of the amazingly offbeat things Homer would never say now,
Yeah.
I remember that basically from Die Hard, though, as well, because that clip is in Die Hard for some reason. Die Hard
Oh
2.
yeah,
When they're on the
Die
plane.
Hard 2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when they're
yeah.
on the plane, I'm like, that's weird, but it fits. And it's
Mm.
also
Which
like,
clip? I've never seen Die Hard 2.
There's like the panning shot of all of them being in the electric chairs,
Oh yeah.
and because like it's like basically they had to put something on the like the plot of Die Hard 2 has everyone on this has a bunch of people on this airplane, and they're just circling overhead.
yeah.
So they just go, screw it, we have to do something. So they like tune into a TV station to put on The Simpsons. So they're just sitting, everyone's just sitting down watching The Simpsons at one point,
Yep.
and you just see that panning shot.
And it would make sense because Die Hard 2, I think, was released in 1990 anyway, so 1991. So it makes sense.
Yeah. But it's just like, I mean, that whole sequence is like probably one of the most iconic little sequences from like one of the early iconic moments where like everyone's just zapping each other, and then Mac starts doing it. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like again, I'm still looking through the lists and things, but it felt like every story in the first series was a story where the characters like underwent a thing and changed and all that kind of stuff. Like the only one that doesn't have a major change of some kind is the one where they get lost in the forest, from what I'm looking through here. Like,
yeah, well, there is a bit of a change there. It brings the family together.
Yeah, I suppose
like
it's Maggie and the Bears, I suppose.
Well, no, it's not. It's not even that. So it's just like that's the last one I watched before we started. We went live. It sets it up for Homer's trying to compete with Flanders, like very much so, and he's broke, and they lose everything. Like literally, it all goes in a big fiery pit, and he's trying to prove something to Bart that he's like not a failure and like that. And he overcomes it. Like at one point, he screams, "I just murdered my entire family," and it gets echoed around the entire thing. So it's just like even though that's like the craziest that this show kind of goes in this season, everything is still relatively relatable, with the exception of the Crepes a Rat, where Bart goes to France and Homer gives nuclear secrets to a terrorist.
Yeah, from Albania.
From Albania.
But like, I like the fact that like
Sparrow,
yeah. But like, even looking at the good stories in season 2, it felt like every character had a very big low point. Like you had Bart crying in the streets and learning French. You had like Homer having to go on his little redemption arc and Homer's night out. Like you said, life on the fast lane earlier. Marge kind of making her decisions, like, and Homer sort of piecing it together at home. Like, I don't know. You could argue they're not as funny, but when I'm watching them, I can't not pay attention to them. It feels like there's real stakes.
Well, it's weird.
When you get to it later on, like, I don't know, Principal and Paddy going out and stuff, they're starting to get into the story of the week type thing, if you know what I mean.
Well, here's a weird thing, right? Like, before I watch this again, my sister's favourite season is season 1. I didn't really understand why, because when I'd watched them again, I'd always skip season 1,
Yeah.
When I watch Simpsons, it's season 2 to 12, and then I'm kind of good. But now it makes sense. I'm like, these are the most human stories.
Yeah, and it's in season 2, but the first season 2 episode is Bart gets an F, and that feels like a big holdover from series 1 in terms of its tone.
Yeah.
I was struck at how sympathetic Bart was in these early seasons.
Yeah.
Before he becomes like a tyrant.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely a troubled child in this, but like at the end of every episode where he does something, he always has that moment where he's like, I've done the bad and I feel awful.
The telltale head, the telltale head. Sorry for cutting across you there, lads, but the telltale head is literally that. Like he's really messed up here. Like this is serious business. Like there's no coming back from this, and he knows that, and that's like the whole point of the episode.
Well, I remember,
like even as far back as like as Bart the General, like when Nelson, like he is depressed after getting like his ass kicked by Nelson because he's being bullied. And like it genuinely like kind of it shows like this is terrorizing him.
Well, it shows that there's like even for a kid who's shown to be a troublemaker, that there are limits that he wouldn't go to, and that there are limits that like even with as far as he could go as being a troublemaker in the past, he would never go as far as Nelson does.
Exactly. And like, Keen, you want to get in there?
Oh no, I was just going to say, as in regards to Bart, I remember in showing my age here, in a documentary that went out on the 10-year anniversary of The Simpsons, that Matt Groening said that when he did season 1 and season 2, he was writing from the point of view of Bart, and then around season 2 or 3, he had a kid and then he
Right.
got it, and then the protagonist became Homer.
Yeah, that's actually a similar thing that happened with South Park, where when they started writing the show, they wrote more as the boys, and then as they became parents, then they wrote more as Randy because
Randy, yeah.
and that's why Randy had. Yeah, and that's when like Randy started getting pretty much every single good line in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like it's weird, right? Because the Simpsons, who's the main character? Would you say? Because later on it is Homer, right? Is the main character.
I
I'd
feel
say
like it
Bart
has
early seasons.
Bart in the first season, certainly.
You think?
Yeah,
I think
I'd say even,
yeah.
I'd say even season 2.
What do you
Bart's
think?
probably still.
Because like you look at Lisa, and like she
Lisa
is
gets
not.
nothing. Lisa gets
She
nothing.
she gets nothing, and
she's a big character almost.
And
Yeah.
she's not the perfect kind of, you know, I'm trying to think of the right word for it, like kind of global cause supporting.
She's not annoying as hell.
academia,
She's
like-
not annoying.
yeah.
She's actually
I
like
wouldn't go
relatable.
that far, but she's sort of in the first season. She exists as a contrast to Bart because she's a bit more book smart, but she's also
There's one part that sums up Lisa's role very well. There's one scene, should I say? It's in The Crepes a Rat, right? Where Homer is like absolutely loving Emil, and he's like, "Oh, it's so great, it's so great." And Homer says something like, "Oh, the problem with this family was we know his piston wasn't firing on the truth, you know."
Yeah.
And then Lisa's like, what's it? The actual quote is, "Your paper tin responsibility or loyalty to your children is astonishing."
It's astonishing,
Is astonishing.
Yeah.
And she gets up and walks out, and I'm like, yeah, okay, that's Lisa. That's brilliant. Like in that it shows she's smarter than the rest of them, but not a total cow.
But
she's not
for
annoying.
for an analog, she was basically Brian Griffin in early Family Guy.
Yeah,
where
correct.
It's just like
Correct.
where she's like the intellectual center of the show. Where you go, well, this is like the perceptive character who understands how everyone else operates.
Like,
yeah, because I'm looking through the list now. The first proper Lisa as Lisa episode is Homer versus Lisa and the Eighth Commandment, which is well into series 2. Like you know,
it's deep in season 2.
I mean, you've got the saxophone one early on, but that's still like
that's kind of almost more Homer in some way.
Yeah.
Like kind of show, in showing how he can kind of drop the ball as a dad. So it's less of kind of her arc. Now she's obviously she has her part in it.
Yeah.
Well, she's kind of like the principal character, but she's not really who's driving the plot along.
Her and Marge kind of share that bit role status where they're definitely supporting characters and they're involved, but you know, it kind of does set the tone for the season, for the series rather as a whole. When it's a Marge story, it is what it is. When it's a Lisa story, it is what it is. But I think they're both really strong. Like everyone in this comes out feeling like a family that you know. Or that hyper realistic family that you know with some. Now there are some zany bits in it. Now with the animation, they really do take advantage of the animation, doing some zany things. But overall, a lot of this stuff doesn't feel like it's a cartoon. You know, it's more just kind of like using the medium of cartoon.
Well, that was one of the rules in the writing room for the first 6 or 7 years. I think they said that you weren't allowed to do something that can't be done in reality, and I remember that because the first time they broke that rule was Leonard Nimoy was in the monorail episode, and they broke the rule to have him beam out at the end.
Right.
Like, you know, my work here is done. You didn't do anything, didn't I?
But see, like, you know, and we will get to. I'm looking forward to like the golden era of The Simpsons, and I think that's going to be something that, you know, we're all going to enjoy because we quote from it all the time. But to wrap this whole thing up. Would you go back to season 1 if you had to? Like, we'll start with you.
I would, and I think you're underselling the humor. Like, there's some gems I forgot about.
Okay, but go for it. Because as I said, it's not my personal favorite one. It's not one that I have much love for. So go on. What are some of the gems?
One of the jokes that made me laugh the hardest was the first Bleeding Gums Murphy one, and Lisa's obviously depressed, and she's like, "I thought playing the saxophone would make me happy," and he goes, "The blues isn't about making people happy. It's about making other people feel worse, and making some money while you're at it. Like, it almost catches you off guard when they get a really good line in, you know."
Yeah, well, and the writing is really sharp, though. That's the thing. Like, it's satirical. Like, it is satirical. Like, that's the difference. It's not like a straight comedy. This is a satire of what we would see, you know, on shows like Family Ties or Full House or something like that, you know, where they have these kind of these nuclear families where everything's perfect. So what is what's the opposite of that? Well, everything's terrible or everything goes wrong.
Yeah.
And in every single one of these episodes, something goes wrong. You know, they really do have a bad run of it. Like it's pretty horrible when you think about it. Like the sun gets
Yeah.
every single episode here, something happens to the Simpsons.
And it's like you can see what they're going for in the fourth episode, No Disgrace Like Home, when they're looking around other people's houses, looking in the windows of these perfect families. That is very, very clearly signposting what they're trying not to be, you know?
To be fair, that when he's going around looking at other families, that's something that your parents would actually do. That's the thing. They're like, look, you're terrible. Look at these. They're not terrible.
Look at these perfect people.
Exactly.
We can't hear what they're saying, but we know they're perfect. Look
Yeah, it's like, look at them. Exactly, and that's very relatable. It's one of those things where you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's the kind of humor. It's not as out there on the nose, but when I was watching this, my perception was this would be a show that would have continued for as long as it did if it had stayed like this. So you can see transitioning where they do go. Kind of you see why they went there, because this got old very quickly.
Yeah. Well, then,
like,
can I
I
ask?
think watching
Yeah, you
two
go,
more
Kev,
seasons
sorry.
of this probably. Sorry, man.
No, you
Watching
go
about
first.
2 more seasons of this probably would have actually started just getting upsetting.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the thing.
I think it would have like skirted the line into just being a depressing show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, I think there's only so far you can just make these characters go through tragedy.
Yeah, like,
it wouldn't be long before Homer's a complete alcoholic, and Marge has left him. The kids don't speak to him anymore, and like,
But like Homer's alcoholism, to put a finer point on it, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's like,
Controversial. He broke Bart's piggy bank to get a beer when he was unemployed.
but actually, the thing about it is, and watching that one, I'm like, topical. This is kind of scary, to watch it now. It's like, and
It's funny how things that become exaggerated later on are actually treated as what they are early on,
yeah, like that whole depiction of being unemployed and losing his job and all kind of stuff, and the depression slump where it's day and night, that doesn't really matter. You're like, yeah, that's something that you can relate to. But again, like, if this was like the arc of the show, or if this was how the show went, it would be it would like BoJack Horseman.
yeah,
And BoJack
absolutely.
That is a good point of comparison, actually. Yeah,
Like, I know people who can't watch BoJack Horseman because it's so harrowing, and I get that. Like, it's not a fun show to watch. Now, it's a good show, but it's not a fun show to watch. And I would say, like, when we're looking at season 2, I think we'll be a bit more jovial. But for now, it's like, man, yikes! I'm glad the world stopped shitting on the Simpsons.
Well, can I ask something to the panel then? If, by all means, take a minute to get the episodes out in front of you. If you had to pick a best and a worst, or a favorite or a least favorite, whichever way you want to,
Bart the
which would be
General
your
for favorite.
picks? From Bart the General, your favorite would be?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bart. Yeah, I'm seconding that.
Yeah, I think I like Bart. I like Bart the General for favorite, but I also really enjoy Crepes of Wrath and also hate it at the same time.
Yeah,
So
I think
Followed very closely, actually, probably by Krusty Gets Busted. I really enjoyed that.
Oh,
It's great.
yeah.
Yes,
Krusty Gets
I-
Busted,
Actually-
so great.
the animation in that though is awful as well, particularly around Krusty. Here's the thing, Here's one thing I have to say it, because if I didn't say it, people are gonna be like,
Yeah.
Smithers is a black guy,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
four episodes later he's a white guy. It's like,
Yes.
they
I
didn't even
remember
wait.
that he was black. I thought that was for the whole season.
So
The
did
fact
I.
That changed
So did
3
I.
episodes in.
That was the thing. I was watching. I'm like, wait, I thought this happened in season 2. It wouldn't make
no,
sense.
there
But they
was-
just change it straight away.
There was more than one. No, there was more than one point where like skin color was a fluid concept across like this season.
and hair
Yeah.
color. And
There's a
hair color.
couple of
Mo's the
cuts.
same. Mo's the same. Yeah, he has
Those
like,
were the same.
Yeah.
Like in Bart
And
the General.
Barney. Barney's blonde as well.
Barney.
Yeah.
Like in Bart the General, the two like Nelson's lackeys. There's cuts where the 2 of them are yellow, the 2 of them are black, one's black, one's like they're just between things.
Oh, wait until you get to Dance and Homer in series 2 when they're at the end of the Capital City song. Marge's dress changes to Lisa's dress for like a split second, and
What?
it's really noticeable.
What?
Go,
Yeah,
go,
notice
go
that.
look it up. Go look it up after this. When they go Capital City, yeah, her like it's full on Lisa's body just pops onto Marge's body for a sec.
But
There
see,
was one,
actually, there's
one very strange little point. Actually,
Go on,
It
go
was the
for it.
I think
Go
it was
for
the
it.
first one. I think it was the first episode where they were in
Yeah.
the Christmas pageant, and
Yeah.
the first time you see Lisa and she's in the
she's
Polynesian
doing the
thing,
fire thing.
Oh
she's not wearing
yeah,
pants.
Yeah.
That's
I
weird.
forgot about that. Yeah,
Actually, here's a weird thing. Right, when I was a kid, I remember having the Simpsons book, like that episode, in a book.
yeah.
Like, it was just like a picture book, and it was the whole episode. And if anyone else remembers that, please contact the show because that was
This is
the
the
weird thing.
Christmas episode.
The Christmas
is it?
episode, it was in an actual
yeah.
book, and like it must have just been out because like I was born like a year. Basically, my entire life has been The Simpsons. I think I was born like
Yeah.
a year before it came out, so I don't remember a time when The Simpsons didn't happen. And you guys are the same because you guys are younger than me.
Oh, yeah.
But like, we don't really remember how big it was as such, but we just remember it being on RTE2. And that's when
Yeah,
everyone watched it.
I remember being because I was born in 1990 when The Simpsons was just getting going. I
Yeah.
remember being young enough that I'd watch the couch gag at the start,
Yeah.
think in my 3-year-old brain, "Oh, that's The Simpsons," and then turn it off.
Yeah.
Because like, what else would be in The Simpsons? Like,
That's
there's
fair.
the bit where they run into the couch and
That's
then Monty Python footsteps on them. The end.
That's fair.
And I wouldn't find out for 10 years that's the Monty Python foot.
You know, it's weird. Like we
And then
haven't
a whole broader world is opened up. to you.
we haven't got to the point yet where Simpson starts doing references, and then there's stuff that either educates us or ill-educates us, or
Yeah.
puts references on movies that we haven't seen yet. That hasn't happened. I was looking out for it because I'm going to start keeping track of it.
Okay.
The
Like-
cultural osmosis hasn't quite kicked in.
No,
yet.
not yet.
Because actually,
Not yet.
I also noticed kind of the lack of couch gag for something that's so synonymous with The Simpsons.
One doesn't even have a
It's
couch
not-
gag. Bart,
There
Telltale
were
Heart doesn't
so
have
many
one.
episodes where they just didn't have really an intro sequence.
Yeah.
But like the couch gag was pretty much always just one of them popping off the couch.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it.
I think there's
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
one,
yeah. It
there's
hasn't
one
escal-
episode that has a proper gag when the couch
Yeah.
falls apart, but that's
Yeah.
it.
That was it. Yeah, but there was a thing made
Um,
out of it. Like it was like even
Yeah.
watching that, I noticed that too, and it was just like they stopped, looked at each other, and then kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that
so
was
like
weird, yeah.
it's just funny that something that's so synonymous with the show just didn't really kick off
Yeah.
until like
It's just like such a
I-
humble beginning for what would
Yeah,
become like
yeah.
the institution.
I bet you could make a really good case for tracking the progress of The Simpsons just by watching the couch gags from each new season.
Who wants to
probably.
take
Because
that?
by season
sounds-
25, they're like 2 minutes long and they're HD effects and all that malarkey.
King, you know what that sounds like to me?
cross media.
That sounds
Yeah.
like somebody just volunteered to track the to track the couch gags.
If Grim falls asleep
I
early
want
enough,
your
I'll do it.
dissertation on my desk by Wednesday.
Oh, a
Can
frame
do.
by frame analysis.
And don't forget to show your work.
It's funny actually. I remember my dad saying there's one from like season 4 where like they get to the couch gag and like it was a circus popped up behind them, like
Yeah.
elephants and stuff, and
Yep.
he used to say, "Oh, that's the worst one. That's not funny." And like 2 decades have passed, and that's looking pretty good now.
Like, to be fair, you know, and we probably will talk about that as we go on, like as our tolerance go. I swear, like I'm not going to put you through what I sat through where I watched from season 16 to 20. They're the darkest
Yeah.
of the dark. That's
I think I watched them. Yeah.
that's a punishment in some countries, you know. So, but everything after that's okay. But
If I'm not mistaken, I think there was not like relatively recent in the first like in the last 2 years,
Yeah.
where I remember somebody posting about how the 2 French guys from Perhaps a Wrath come back.
no,
Oh, no
here's the
way.
thing.
Well,
Here's-
I mean, they
here's
bring
the-
back the guy who owns Santa's Little Helper
No,
back.
they
Like,
do,
I mean,
but
they bring back Lurleen Lumpkin.
from season 30 they start doing references. This is why season 30 is amazing, and I hate when people bash it. They actually bring back references to old shows. They reference the old. This is why I think this is going to end soon, because they're properly doing an Avengers Endgame thing where they're referencing old episodes.
I
Bring
think
them all back.
I haven't seen it yet, but hasn't Disney released its first Simpsons Maggie short?
I haven't seen it yet.
They
I have a
have, yeah.
feeling-
They
I have
Yeah,
a
no, I've
feeling
been
they're
seeing a lot of
gonna
posts about it.
pivot it or change it somehow now.
What, to age them up and have a different show?
I think they're either going to change it so like maybe Maggie's the main character or do like one of those soft reboot type things. Considering Disney is sort of what it did with Star Wars and what it does with the properties it buys, it wouldn't surprise me if they tried something like that.
To be fair, that's like, look, they're not going to stop making Simpsons episodes, but they're also
No.
the cast are like getting up there, and they're also raking in millions of money per episode. So it just makes sense now to kind of pivot. And look, if it works, it works. Like, for example, Frasier was a split of Cheers, and Frasier's better than Cheers, so it
Yeah.
could work. It could work. It all depends.
Probably why the Krusty Gets Cancelled is probably my favorite for Sideshow Bob's cavalcade of whimsy.
Yes, yes, it's brilliant. Like,
I
Sideshow
forgot he
Bob, one
went
of the best
mad with
characters.
Iron Mask. Yeah.
So look, we're getting to the 5 past, the 5 to break here. We have an interview coming up later, guys. So if you're watching on the stream, hang out for like 10 minutes. We'll be back on. If you're listening to this on Phoenix 92.1,
Stick the kettle on.
yeah, exactly. Go have a drink. If you listen to this on Phoenix, we're going to take a break. We'll be back after the break with the director of the lockdown panel. So we will talk to you in a few minutes. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey.